Now we will go through the tours, and we'll look at Tour 1. On Tour 1, we're constructing a square. You're going to learn how to construct segments and circles. You're going to learn how to select and drag objects. You're going to construct circles that are perpendicular or parallel to other lines. You're going to learn how to construct points at the intersection of two objects. You're going to learn how to save Sketchpad documents. You're going to use that undo command. Now, this first piece of the tour is what you did the first 5 minutes of this training. You just explored on Sketchpad, and we went through some of the basis. So now we are at the getting serious point. It's officially the page that's number 3 in this packet. So let's get serious. The instructions state, when you're ready to move on, choose Undo from the Edit menu or Control-Z to backtrack through our work to a blank page. You should be working in a blank sketch. Choose the Segment tool from the toolbox. Make certain that it's a segment tool and not a ray or a line. Draw a segment to form the bottom side of your square. Notice that here I just constructed a segment. If you access the Shift key as you draw your segment, you're decreasing the number of pixels, therefore you're getting a straighter look for your line segment. Some students and teachers like that. Now, it says using the selection arrow or compass tool, click first on the right endpoint and then on the left endpoint of each segment. So the compass tool, the right endpoint, the left endpoint. Notice how it lights up. Using the selection arrow, you're going to click to see what happens when you drag certain geometric objects. If you constructed your circle where you did not end the radius defining point at that point, you're not going to get what you want. Notice that when I move this point, you're not getting the result that you want. So you need to start here and here. Now, you'll want to click in the selection arrow so that you're always back in that selection phase. Clicking in the white area deselects everything. As well, if you were to select escape, you're going to have that. Next, you'll construct a line through the center of the circle and perpendicular to the segment. Notice that we had to state both of those pieces of information, through the center of the circle and perpendicular to the segment, to be clear of which line we meant. Similarly, Sketchpad needs two items to be selected, a point and a straight object, in order to construct a perpendicular or parallel line. Notice if I go to the Construct menu, perpendicular line option does come up. With the line still selected, go on top of, select the circle as well. Go to Construct and construct intersections. Notice the two intersections will be provided. You could have also just taken your arrow, if the selection arrow is accessed, and clicked on that point of intersection. That is a very smart way to do it because the computer will find that intersection. Don't go placing points where you think the intersection might be, because you might place the point a little off, and that's not what you want. Deselect all objects by clicking in a blank space. Select the topmost point just created and the original segment. Then choose Parallel from the Construct menu. Look what happened. Deselect all objects. You do that by clicking in the white area or accessing Escape. Select the two lines from the last two steps. Or now it says use either perpendicular line or parallel line to construct the vertical line through the left endpoint of the original segment. So if I were to select this left endpoint and I were to select this line, I would want to construct the parallel. And then I'm going to select these two lines, go to construct intersection. I could have also taken my selection arrow and just clicked on that intersection. Now, completing the construction and the drag test. Before you finish your square, let's see if it passes the drag test. As you did in step 7, use the selection arrow to drag all 4 vertices. Okay, the right angle's preserved. Okay, the right angle's preserved. Okay, I have the intersection preserved. Okay, the intersection's preserved. These 2 points have independence because they were from where we started. These 2 points have restriction, and that's because they're the intersection of some pretty specific geometric objects. For 14 in the tour, it states, select everything except the 4 corners of the square and the original segment. So I'm selecting those lines and this circle. Choose Hide Objects in the Display menu, or Hide Path Objects. And now I should see just these 2 little points in the line segment. I'll go and use the Segment tool to create my other sides. And now I've created my first sketchpad construction. I'm to use the drag test again, just to make certain that I've created my square. It states, use the selection arrow, then it says select all from the edit menu. If I select all, and then I go to display animate objects, notice I have a dynamic square. As well, I'm going to Control Z to get it situated like I want. Notice I could mark the sides of this square to be congruent. As well, I could mark that these angles are right angles. And I can go and just do quite a bit. Once you have your square, go to File, Document Options, and add 2 duplicate pages. And then go back to the first page. We're stopping that animation, and it says, see if you can construct the following objects: a rectangle, a parallelogram, a rhombus, a trapezoid, and an equilateral triangle. You would want to use the Construct menu to do that. Let's label this first page of the 3 a dynamic square, a quadrilateral that is equiangular and equilateral. So there we are. Now if we go to the second page, I could measure the side lengths by going to Measure Lengths. But as well, I could go back. Notice I'm deselecting everything. I could go back and measure the slopes of these sides. Then I could go to Number Calculate, and I could take the product of AB slope and AC slope. What should I get? Oh my, I should get -1, and I do. I could take the product of DB slope and CD slope. In fact, I could go to Graph, I could go to Snap Points, and now my points are on integral values. And I could even set it up where I have some pretty interesting relationships. What happens when I make this my side lengths horizontal and vertical? Oh wow, interesting. The next page, I could even go with something that's Cartesian and looking to the concept of function, which is pretty excellent. I could go and create my interior. I could measure the perimeter of that square. I could measure the area of that square, and I could measure a side length of that square. Then I've deselected everything. What if I select a side and its perimeter and go to graph plot as xy? You see that point? That point's x-coordinate is the side length. The y-coordinate's the perimeter. In fact, I could go to display, trace plotted point, and I could look at multiple instances and show that there's a nice linear relationship. I could also deselect everything, select this side length as my x, select this area as my y, go to plot as xy, and I'm even going to make this a different color. And I'm going to trace that by going to display, trace, plotted point. And what type of a relationship am I going to have here? Oh my, it's quadratic in nature. This Tour 1 doesn't necessarily show these features of mathematics, but they're quite attainable from that basic construction.